friend. Today I want to share with you the top 5 books I read in 2024. Okay, so first on the list is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. This book is a really comprehensive neuroscientific explanation for how manifestation actually works. And it really takes the woo-woo mystical aspect out of manifestation and brings it down to grounded reality where you can actually understand what's going on in metaphysics and in the brain and body so that you can actually break the habit of being your old self, all the patterns and, subconscious behaviors and belief systems that we've developed over the course of our lifetime and begin to create a new version of yourself and a new version of your reality. So I highly recommend reading this book. This is actually the second or third time I've read it. This book in particular, I first started by listening to the audiobook, and then I knew I wanted to purchase the actual physical copy because there's a lot of diagrams and charts and stuff. I tried to find one that will be good to show you. For instance, just actual diagrams about the brain and the body and how everything works. So it's a really great book to not only listen to the audiobook, but to also get the physical copy if you're interested in diving in more with this. Some of the key takeaways is that he discusses heart-brain coherence, which is getting the heart and the brain in alignment so that you are actually manifesting what you desire rather than this push-pull, different energy levels, kind of like what I've talked about in the past with the subconscious versus the conscious mind. You want to get your heart in coherent vibration with your mind so that you're actually able to manifest and live from a place of total alignment where you're actually going to start seeing some of the things you really want to have happen in your life come to fruition rather than this constant tug of war that you're sort of playing with yourself. He also talks a lot about how to actually do this and provides concrete examples of how to implement this. And one of the biggest things is meditation and getting your mind into a theta wave state. That's when your mind is the most influenceable and you're actually able to shift some of those beliefs from your subconscious that are, lying dormant under the surface and have a greater impact on your ability to improve that subconscious state that's kind of staying under the shadows. And a bonus with this is he actually has a workbook, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself workbook, that you can go through these different exercises and actually put this stuff into practice. Because the most important thing when it comes to reading this type of information and gaining this knowledge and wisdom is actually created through putting the knowledge into practice. So if you're just getting a bunch of head knowledge, that's really just helping inflate your ego and making yourself feel better, but it's not actually leading to any change in your life. And so if you want to see change in your life, you've got to actually put this stuff into practice, and this workbook is a great way of helping you kind of walk through some of those steps. So highly recommend all of Joe Dispenza's work. This one, like I said, I've read it a couple of times, and I probably am going to continue reading this over and over just to solidify everything more and more. It's a great one to just read every year and glean more wisdom when you're at different levels of your journey. Okay, so the second book, I don't have the physical copy yet, something I do want to purchase, but so far I've listened to the audiobook twice this year. And this book is a big one. It's a 36-hour long audiobook, so it's not for the faint of heart. This is what I would consider more advanced level manifestation type of book. It's not something that you're going to want to start with if you're just learning about what manifestation is and learning that you can manipulate reality through your thoughts and beliefs. But when you get to the point when you are ready for this book, it is a fully comprehensive textbook, like encyclopedia, basically, on manifestation and how to actually make it work for you and how to be successful rather than just constantly going over things in your mind over and over and just never really seeing any results from it. So a few takeaways from reality transurfing. One of the biggest ones that stuck with me is this concept of pendulums. Now, he talks about pendulums in a different way than what I had experienced pendulums before, where to me, pendulum was when you start to make an improvement and then the pendulum has to swing back the other way, like I talked about in my last video. But the way he describes pendulums is that pendulums are like systems in place in our society, and they kind of try to suck you in. So like politics, for example, is a pendulum. And when a pendulum comes up, its goal is to take energy from you. So you have to really ignore the pendulum and not let it win, not let it take over energy. A pendulum can be something like somebody getting upset with you, and you just have to ignore it and let it be and not not let it pull energy from you and not get sucked into it. Another concept that really stuck out to me was that of soul frail. This is sort of like each individual person has their own unique soul resonance, this sort of chord that only we have. So if you imagine like playing all kinds of different chords on a guitar, and imagine each person was one of those chords, and you have one chord in you and everyone else has a different chord, and we all have a different soul frail. And finding what is true for us is an important piece of being able to manifest and live the highest version of ourselves. So if, for instance, we are setting goals for ourselves that really are more in line with what our parents want from us, or they're more in line with how we want others to perceive us, and less so about who we really are at a deeper level, and we're just acting out from all these different masks, then we're not really acting from our truth. And our truth isn't an egoic state of I'm such a victim, this is my truth. And what the ego wants to say its truth is anything that will make itself look better and everyone else look worse. And that's not your truth. Your truth is who you really are, and that chord that lives in you and that is you. And when you can figure out a way to actually be in full alignment with that, then you can start to manifest things from a place of that truth. And you're going to have a much easier time manifesting those things because they come from a true place. It's like in harmony with who you are, rather than you're trying to affect all these things that don't actually align with the truest, most authentic version of yourself. One of the other things I love about this book is that, in the manifestation world, people talk a lot about visualizing more money and manifesting more money, $30,000, $100,000, $1 million, $3 million, whatever it might be. But this book states that the goal is not actually money, that money is just an accompanying attribute to another goal, to your actual goal. So your goal might be to be able to have a certain house. And why might you want that house? Because you want to have the freedom, you want to have a beautiful view, you want to have peace, you want to live in a place that is inspiring to you. And so you might need a certain amount of money for that house, but the goal isn't the money. The goal is the freedom and the peace and the bliss feeling that you have when you enter your home. So money is not the goal. Money is just an attribute of the goal. The other thing I loved about this book, and this book is so robust, I'm not going to go over everything, but one of the things I love is how he talks about stair-stepping your way to your goals and not just focusing on the end goal. So let's say that on your vision board is a house overlooking the ocean. Now, it's good to start there, and you want to figure out, like, what does your real big goal look like? And is that in alignment with you? Is that really in alignment with your soul frail? Is that true to yourself, your most authentic self? Because it's not true for everyone. Not every single person wants a house overlooking the ocean, and you shouldn't have to think that's supposed to be your goal. So anyway, rather than just focusing on that goal and putting that on your vision board and you're just visualizing that house and yourself in it every single day, rather than doing that, he talks about working your way to the goal through steps. So, okay, you want to live in a house overlooking the ocean, but what does that mean for you right now? Well, you've got to start taking some action steps towards that goal, but that doesn't mean you're going to go and speak with a realtor about that home. What you're going to start by doing is getting your current house ready to sell, and you're going to have to act out all these different steps on the path from A to B. So what you need to do is figure out what that next step might look like for you and focus on visualizing that. And so you'll eventually get to that end goal, and it will be a much more realistic process that your brain can actually accept and your subconscious can accept it as you're making these smaller goals that are more attainable than just constantly visualizing this big mansion overlooking the ocean, which can sometimes feel like it's just so far out of reach that it's just a fantasy, and you kind of get stuck living in this place of escapism from your real life rather than actual intentional manifestation. One of the other key concepts that he talks about in this book is that of inner intention versus outer intention, and that our inner intention is sort of like enacting our will on the environment, and we're trying and pushing and manipulating things in our physical reality in order to obtain the goals that we have set for ourselves. Whereas outer intention is using our attention and intention to cause an effect without us going around and manipulating everything. Now, he describes this concept in much more depth, and I may actually do a video sometime about this, just about this book, or break it down into multiple parts, because there's just so much in this book that it really helps you figure out like how to actually do this stuff. Okay, next up on the list of the top 5 books from this year is Parallel Universes of Self by Fredrick Dodson. This one's not quite as dense as reality transurfing, but it's still a 14-hour audiobook and it might feel a little bit more advanced, but I think it's a little more accessible than reality transurfing. So I would start with this one if you're wanting more in-depth look at manifestation and have some actual practical elements to guide you through the process. So one of the core concepts from this book is that your reality is sort of like lanes on a multi-lane highway, and depending on what lane you're in, it will determine the experience of your life. So you can jump over to different lanes through the process of shifting your mind and shifting your subconscious and switch your energetic state to a different lane of the highway and experience a parallel universe of yourself. So one of the main concepts is that you must live from the point of view of your desired reality. And he actually gives a technique called the Pure technique, Pure. This is a practice that you can do to really get yourself in the state of that desired reality and out of the state that you're finding yourself in right now. So to kind of break down the Pure technique for you, first you need to find a reality that you want to experience. So you really need to think about, what is it that you want to experience? Do you want that house on overlooking the ocean? And what would that look like for you? So what would your day-to-day experience look like? What would your morning routine be like? All of those little details. So once you've got that figured out, then you want to relax into a 0 point, as he calls it. You want to become silent, release everything. So let go of any conceptual knowledge, let go of labels and ideas, and just relax into a completely silent space where you can get your energy to a very still place. Now from there, allow yourself to look at the new version of yourself as though it's already real. So what you want to do is like kind of watch the movie of that version of you. Now it needs to be you. It can't be just watching someone else's life. It needs to be you playing that role. So you are the one in the house overlooking the ocean. You are the one sleeping in the bed in that room with the ocean view. Watch yourself, the version of yourself that is that highest version, that biggest goal that you want to achieve. And key is watching it as though it's already real. Next, what you're going to do is now enter into that person. So from watching it from a point of view of the person outside of yourself, now you're going to pull your attention into that person who is you. And you're going to be looking from that person's eyes, or your eyes. So you're going to go from identifying what that vision is, seeing yourself acting that out, then bringing yourself into that version of you. And now you're seeing yourself acted out as first person rather than third person. And finally, you're going to rest in fulfillment of that being your reality. So that's the Pure technique. And if you start practicing this, you're going to start to see a shift in a lot of different ways in your life. Another thing I really love about this book is that he talks about using your emotions as a guidance system, which is what they are intended to be anyway. He says, don't try to suppress or resist your emotions. What you want to do is use them as a guidance system. So if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling angry, know that something's off track. You're either perceiving things wrong or you're headed down the path that's not correct for you. So indicators that you are actually following your soul's path are that you are going to feel excitement, joy, euphoria, love, relaxation, peace, contentment, and calm. These are the feelings that will be evoked from following your soul's true path. And if you're starting to feel anything off of that, then that's an indicator that you're either looking at it in the wrong way, you're having a limiting belief coming up, or you're headed down the wrong path. In Parallel Universes of Self, he also talks about really focusing your attention on the things that you love and appreciating those things more. Where attention goes, energy flows. So the more that we put our attention on the things we want and desire and love and appreciate, whether that's as simple as like, say, I appreciate this microphone for what it does to make the audio quality better, appreciating a picture of your children on the wall, appreciating your actual children, appreciating every little thing, every little tiny detail of your life that you could possibly appreciating your lungs for breathing for you. The more that we can focus our attention on appreciating and being in gratitude, the more we can raise that vibration and affect change on the outside world. Also in this book, he actually gives a lot of different exercises that will help you with putting this knowledge into practice. So it's not just becoming, again, head knowledge, but it's something that you can incorporate into your life and actually see real results from. Okay, book 4 is not available on audiobook, but I love this book by Rupert Spira, You Are the Happiness You Seek. This book is much different than the other ones. This doesn't have a lot of scientific knowledge or a bunch of exercises and feels less textbook and more just like a good friend. Basically, this book is illustrating how you are the happiness that you seek. Who you are at the baseline is happiness and joy. And anything that's not that is just a disguise from who you really are. He talks a lot about how we are actually the screen on which the movie is projected, and the movie is our life and anything else that's happening, and the screen is constantly at peace and stillness and is happiness, and the stuff that's going on in our life is just the movie playing on that screen, but it's not who we really are. Your true nature is happiness. Your true nature is peace. This book just feels like a nice warm hug from Olaf. It's just very comforting and simple, and it feels really quiet yet profound. So I highly recommend this book. He also talks about how we are all one essential being, and when we live from the disbelief in that and this belief in separation, and that we are all these unique individuals who are not connected to one another, then we really have no choice but to start being more self-seeking and self-serving, and that is what leads to all the stuff and the chaos that goes on in the world, and all the selfish behavior and greed, and everything that we don't like about this world. At the root of it is the belief in separation from one another. But when we start to see ourselves as one connected unit, one being expressing itself in many different ways, then we will inevitably just start to come from a place of love and reciprocity for each other and for the other humans that are doing this journey with us. Because when we see ourselves in them, if you thought that the person across the street from you was you would start to treat them a little more kindly. So really, to create harmony and unity between humans is to see ourselves as our true nature and as all being connected as one. All right, and the final book from 2024 that made my top 5. And this one I also just listened to the audiobook, and I think it's actually a really good audiobook to listen to because it is narrated by the author himself, and he has such a calming voice and presence that listening to him is just always going to put you into a calm and peaceful state. And that book is Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Wayne Dyer. This is a 19-hour audiobook, and it's definitely worth your time. This is something I think I'm going to revisit over and over, like I tend to do with the books that I really love and get a lot of value out of. So in this book, each chapter is a reading of and then his interpretation and explanation of every single line from the Tao Te Ching. And the Tao means the way. So this is really about a guidance for how to live your life, how to live in harmony with all beings on the planet and live in harmony with yourself and follow the path that's meant for you. Follow the path that your soul is calling you toward and living in your highest expression. So here's a couple of quotes that I really liked that I wrote down from this book. First is, I come from greatness. I must be like what I come from. I will never abandon my belief in greatness and the greatness of others. The second is, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience. And I love this because it really does put the responsibility on ourselves that we are responsible for how we perceive our world, and the way that we react to that perception will determine what we are going to experience. So if we are just constantly seeing negativity and hate and violence, and if we see in others judgment and anger and fear, then we are going to be interpreting their behavior in that way, and we're going to respond from that place rather than seeing others as being kind and cooperative and loving. We're going to respond to them in very different ways based on how we see other people or, our circumstances. If we can start to become responsible for how we see and perceive others and even ourselves or even our situations, then we're going to have a different reaction to that. In doing that, we basically choose the feelings that we experience. So one of the phrases he uses repeatedly throughout this book is do the Tao now. Now, I can't remember if this line is from the Tao or from Wayne, but he states that you must die while you are still alive, or you can wait until you die and follow your Tao then. So basically, we're all being charged with the need to follow our Tao and follow our highest path and do the Tao now. When he says you must die while you are still alive, it means dying to the self, so the small self, the separate self, the ego self, and living from a place of love and peace and harmony, and following what's true for you, where your soul is really guiding you on this life journey that you're on right now. And if you don't do that, well, that's fine, because after you die, then you can start getting to work on it. So there's really no wrong answer, but if you're feeling called to live the life of following the Tao and your highest expression, then you must die while you're still alive. He also says to be diligent in seeking the wisdom of the Tao. And so this means not just passively listening to an audiobook every once in a while, but really studying it and really embodying the wisdom from the text. So these are the top 5 books that I've read in 2024. I hope that maybe there's some inspiration for you here and maybe you'll be called or drawn to one of these books. I often see the resources that come to us as little breadcrumbs from the universe. It's kind of like playing the game Zelda. And in Zelda, you have to go into the little hut to get the little piece of advice of what you should do next from the little guy, like just a random person that needs to give you advice for what to do next in the game. And that's how I've seen my journey as far as how I've come across these certain books that I have. And there's a lot more that I could have talked about today, but the universe will just give you these little breadcrumbs. And so you just have to start following them and listening and getting yourself to the point where you're open to it. Once you become open to it, then things just start to shift. And it's pretty remarkable to watch it all unfold. So I hope these books have been helpful. I wanted to leave you with this final quote from Wayne Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And that is a quote from Walt Whitman, which states, "Oh, I could sing such grandeurs and glories about you. You have not known what you are. You have slumbered upon yourself all your life. Your eyelids have been the same as clothed most of the time. Whoever you are, claim your own at any hazard. These shows of the East and the West are tame compared to you. These immense meadows and interminable rivers, you are as immense and interminable as they are." So thanks for watching, and I hope this has been valuable for you. And until next time, my friend, keep rising.